Hi, I'm Lydia with Revelation Real Estate, and today in Solving Life's Next Chapter, I'm super excited because we have two amazing guests with us. We have Dr. Vahan and Cano. I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves. So this kind of came about because Dispatch Health happens to be one of our sponsors. So I am so excited to have you and very, very honored to have you both here.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thank you.
So tell us who you are and how you became part of the Native American community.
Sure. Well, my name is Vahan Setyan, and I am a healthcare consultant. I have my own firm, and I have built post-acute agencies throughout 3 states: California, New Mexico, and Arizona. So after doing some work for the last 10 years, I had the Navajo Nation reach out to me, and they wanted to help me and help them with their elder care.
Okay.
And so you kind of drive out there.
Yeah.
I went to Window Rock, spoke with some council delegates there, and we kind of determined that there is no health care.
Right.
It's all smoke and mirrors, really. But the good thing is that there was some infrastructure there. And so, but I had to take the leap. I had to make a decision whether I'm there full time on my own dime, or do I just continue what I was doing without having any consideration of what I saw?
Right.
But the thing is, when you're a healthcare professional, you kind of can't forget what you saw.
Right.
You know, the devastation, let's say grandma hitchhiking to see her own doctor, let's say 40 miles away.
Right.
People in dire situations, veterans with no water and so forth. So you kind of say, you know what, I'm going to take the leap.
Right.
So after several years of going back and forth and driving back and forth between Phoenix and Window Rock to Shiprock, a lot of miles put on the car, and all alone most of the time. You know, I did have a mentor with me. His name was Matthew Byrne, and he was with me going back and forth.
Okay.
But it was mostly, you know, all alone, trying to fix something at a grand level.
Right.
And even though there's Indian Health Service, private hospitals, and so forth, you see the demographic is still suffering. So
Right.
something is wrong. So
Right.
we thought maybe we can bring in a service, whatever that service is,
Right.
and kind of close the gap in healthcare.
Right.
So eventually, after 4 or 5 years, the president of the Navajo Nation, the former one, Russell Begay, he gave me an agreement to provide hospice and palliative service across 3 states.
Okay.
It was the first agreement ever in U.S. history to be given
Wow.
to anyone, let alone hospice.
Right.
Even the word hospice itself was on the newspaper, and
Wow.
so that was something new for the Native community.
Right.
And eventually, we were in Navajo Times, and then we did a testimony at the U.S. Senate level. And eventually we started working with state officials and city councilmen, and our doctor collaborative grew. So we started speaking with doctors around the nation,
Right.
in Arizona and so forth. So now we're in a spot where we have the Navajo Nation Farm Board and its president in our collaborative.
Okay.
We have the former chairman of the National Indian Health Board in our collaborative.
Wow.
And many others.
Right.
So who are basically convinced that something is wrong,
Right.
and we have the opportunity for us to fix that.
Well, healthcare in general is broken, but
Yeah.
but what the Native Americans are going through is even worse
Oh, yeah.
conditions. So. So you are the first, I just want to get this out real quick, you are the first in history.
Yeah, as a non-native, to be an appointed tribal official as an authorized agent within the Navajo Nation,
Okay.
under the auspices of the Farm Board,
Okay.
which they teamed up for us to provide dietary produce for the cancer patients.
Okay.
It was a very unique kind of a structure.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And then Cano, you tell us who you are, because you are obviously very famous.
Oh, man, don't you know who I wished I was? That's what I usually say, right? Man, it's really good to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on Lydia Radio, right? Are we on a podcast? And,
We are on a podcast.
And you write a blog, and My name is Cano, and I'm really honored to be here. And I'm here on behalf of Clandestine Live, where you're watching us live. That's why I keep spiking the camera over there, right? Breaking that dimension. My name is Cano to my friends, and I'll introduce myself to the beings, if you will. Aho, matakiase, zuya wawakwa mieyilo. It basically means, my name is Cano, but I want to say that my mother is of the Lakota people, my father is of the Pueblo, and my name is Peaceful Warrior.
Oh.
And I come here on behalf of a mission, if you will, a life mission, a vision quest of seeing a small child holding a blossoming flower of a sage plant. So anyone out there knows what sage is, and we all hope to meet sages as we go. And today I'm sitting with Dr. Setyan Vahan, and he's definitely a true sage. And as he says, I'm definitely using these really spectacular terms because I want to hit right. Let's go marketing spectacular. Definitely want to back up the idea or the thought process that what Vahan has done is really created because out of his own heart he saw a need. Mm-hmm. And if he didn't make the decision to just open his wallet, basically, right. get in his car, put the gas in the car,
right.
go meet tribal leaders and show up when it was time to show up, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So,
right.
As we broadcast live to however many thousands and millions of people eventually, we want to know that, there's a cause. And
right.
I want to thank Dr. Setyan here for taking the energy, and we're speaking of positive things, right?
Yes,
and there's,
absolutely.
like you said, healthcare is in disarray, and we can speak to a lot of things. If we want to get snappy and get political, we can start arguing, but really there's some facts and some education that
right.
a lot of us, and that's why I love your format. You're helping people like my mother, people that have worked their entire lives, right?
Yep.
And when they retired, they had it set before them that I'm okay.
Right. Right.
But as us sales guys and us suit jacket guys get together and we start counting beans, things change. Economies change. 5 years, a year can be a short term. And that's why we're sitting here, because I know Dr. Setyan can express and speak directly to what's happening in real time
right.
in regard to healthcare, not only for Native people, but all of us in general.
Absolutely.
Cano is very modest. He does come with enormous power and privilege,
yes.
and the blessing that he has. Obviously, he was within the advisory board, for President Obama, and his mom for the Clintons. So
right.
that already itself, gives huge credibility, but also the witness power of what has transpired.
Right.
And at the same time, the way he has approached Native country and what he has seen coming from the trenches. Mm-hmm. That's very important. We need to speak with people who come from the trenches, who actually see what's really going on.
Absolutely.
Versus what the authorities say.
Right.
Which will give us the opportunity to implement unique solutions to a unique problem.
Right, right. So I know what I know about the Native American communities is I know they're very traditional, they're very private. When I was in medical sales years ago, I used to go down to Saskatoon, and there's a medical facility hospital down there, and all the doctors were white and all the staff member were Native American. Mm-hmm. And I questioned the doctors at one point. I said, why aren't there any Native American doctors? Yeah. And they said that a lot of Native Americans don't think to go get educated and come back and mm-hmm. become the doctors, the dentists, the folks that need to help their own people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So is that you're trying to change that in some, you're trying to make it better so that folks that are Native American can get educated and better themselves and help their own folks,
sure.
Right?
Maybe I can answer that question.
Okay.
And then Cano can chime in.
Yes.
As a Native American to attest to that. Well, first of all, it is true. The Native American demographic has low education versus other demographics, but at the same time, you have to really go down to the root of the problem. Why is that?
Right.
Do they have any hope, or do they see the light at the end of the tunnel when they grow up? At the reservation level, no. They do not have, or they do not see medical schools and law schools and proprietary schools and tertiary schools surrounding their area, so there is no role model for them.
Right.
They hardly see anything.
Right.
That's one.
Okay.
And then two, most of the Native Americans live off the reservation, about 80%. So when they grow up in that environment, it's not an affluent environment most of the time. They're still struggling.
Right.
And so children still continue with the path towards not seeing, the opportunities for them that's available,
Right.
that not knowing, what they can do,
Right.
the potential. So there are organizations out there that really try to promote Native American education and what the potential could be.
Right.
But we need a massive spark in education, in healthcare, in economic development for it to resonate across the nation. We can't just, be talking to a few people and creating these small organizations, and we expect that it's going to reach the other side of the
Right.
United States at the same time. We
Right.
need a much bigger platform for
Right.
us to implement change.
Okay.
And once we start doing that, then we can go into high schools around the reservations.
Yeah.
Let's put, caregiver or home health aides kind of a certification program.
Yeah.
So once before they graduate high school, now they can go find a job right away. Now they can see value in themselves.
Right.
But when you don't do that,
Right.
when they go out there in the real world and they get stuck because they don't
Right.
know what to do, there is no guidance,
Right.
there is no cipher, there is no reference point, there is no
Right.
role model.
Right.
Imagine growing up in that kind of environment. So the root of the problem is we need to create a stronger youth versus
Right.
trying to fix a broken adult.
Absolutely. Yes.
So.
Right. Well, exactly. Giving me the moment now to express, from my point of view as a tribal member, if you will, enrolled at Oglala Lakota Nation, watching my parents, family members embrace these things. Let's rewind to what I said: the suit and the jacket, the bean counters, and education. And look at this. I never get nervous, Lydia. Like literally.
I should be nervous.
I'm nervous because the content is so important.
Right.
Right, and so the education of who we are, one, as American citizens, is really important. And dialogue and definition of words really plays into a lot of things if you're enrolled tribal member, okay? Because a lot of times I come to a boardroom table and people are like, man, why are you're working every industry? How's that possible? Well, because I work with tribes.
Yeah.
And a tribe has every industry.
Absolutely.
Right? So if we rewind now to the setup and how our economy is in place, right? We all know that currently the government need to get some things done to make sure we don't shut down again, right?
Right.
That's a real time factor thing, right? But as layman, as an American citizen, not native, when I don't apply that, it's easy to stream some programs and not pay attention to some valued things. Definition of time.
Right.
Okay, 100 years is a very short time in this country.
Yep.
Okay, because policies were set forth for 100 years. There were leases signed in 100-year terms, and so if you rewind for all of us, our country went through a prohibition of alcohol.
Right.
Right. In that prohibition of alcohol, it wasn't just about alcohol or social needs. It was about control of chemicals. It was control of pharmaceuticals, right? Mm-hmm. Because with the control of alcohol and prohibition came out of that also the notice that, hey, cocaine is not regulated, cannabis is not regulated.
Right.
And so let's speak as a native person, okay? Because we talk about at that time, most of our native people were being treated by herpetologists, basically,
okay.
right? Or medicine or whatever
Right.
Stereotypical thought processes. But basically, it's your uncle over there that can heal you. And some of those things in their basket of tricks are natural remedies.
Right.
Okay, those remedies were not regulated. People couldn't make sense of how to make money, and we had profiteering things in mind. So we all have to remember that there's only there's literally under 20 bank accounts that kind of dictate what everything does. So if we rewind to prohibition, Then we talk about the American Medical Association.
Yep.
We talk about the regulation of hemp and cannabis and how that affected everybody. Right away thinks Cheech and Chong
Right.
and smoking cannabis, but no, the hemp industry at that time was outshadowing every other industry. They were about to blast off because we all know, maybe we don't, maybe I should educate, with an acre of hemp, you can create, and an acre of hemp, mind you, takes 3 months to grow.
Okay.
Okay, you can achieve out of an acre of hemp. These are facts now. This used to be hearsay and okay, get out of here, Cano, quit talking about this stuff. Now it's facts that we can produce out of an acre of hemp just as much as a whole mountainside or 2 mountainsides of trees. But in the day of industry and forestry, just like if I owned that timber company, I was going to make sure that, just like today, if it was industries,
Right.
the timber industry won.
Right.
So at this point, we all have to face that as Americans and understand, okay, well, let's rewind that to what we're talking about today.
Right.
Healthcare.
Right.
Okay, who won that war, if you will? Economic war. Because whoever dictated that or whoever took control of his story, which is history to us,
Yes.
the policies are still in place.
Right.
We still look at 100-year leases. We still look at medical associations that have maintained funding from the federal government to fund a broken system.
Right.
Right, and we can get personal, and we've done that in the past, right? The Native American Religious Act was only passed in 1976, giving me the right to practice my religion without being federally prosecuted.
Wow.
So, and technically it's still, without that act, I wasn't able to arrange a group of people to talk about herbology or just simply, hey, if you drink a lot of water, it's good for you.
Right. Right.
And that's been philosophy that we've utilized for centuries, right? All of us. Because we all come from a place that we sat around a fire as our only light and protection.
Yeah.
So let's bring that to elders sitting at home now.
Right.
Elders who worked their whole life have retirement. They retired. They had their health care set out for them for 30 years. Well, economy's changing. Well, I'm literally getting kind of emotional, but economy's changed, and we can point fingers, and luckily a lot of people did that because in the 60s, 70s, there was things changed, and a lot of our people, all of our friends and family went through discomfort, and there's still things going on.
Right.
But if we continue to point fingers and to wonder whose fault it is, well, we don't do anything, right? So the solutions are, as a Native person, what I see is the ownership of the land needs to be reassessed, not that it's all owned by natives.
Right.
That we're all American citizens.
Yes.
We're all one.
Yep.
Right? And if we have these opportunities, they were created as reservations.
Yeah.
They were answering questions that were put to them over 100 years ago. We're still following the same policies.
Yeah.
So if you have an expert like Dr. Setyan or yourself who is spreading the message.
Yes.
And again, I get on a pulpit because I get emotional. But it's all about educating yourself about the policies,
right?
What the ownership of the medical healthcare industry is. Mm-hmm. Remember that corporations are legal entities in our, and like he said, if we can educate our population,
right? Because
we still have the affluence, we still have Native Americans who are highly educated, who are willing to. But that comes to the disparity he talks about now.
Right. So we had talked earlier, and I know that there are some horrific conditions for kids, and what really got me was veterans. You had mentioned that the Native Americans are the highest amount of veterans. They go and they fight for our country, and they come back to the reservation, and there's no running water and no clean housing for them.
No health care either.
No health care. And there's so many veteran benefits. Is it just the education of trying to get the word to those veterans, or how? I just have a hard time not understanding, because there are resources for veterans.
Sure. Well, look at it this way. As a demographic, statistically speaking, Native Americans give off the largest concentration of veterans to all armed forces.
Right.
So that fact alone should basically tell us that if you see an elder on the street, a native, they're probably a
veteran. Yeah.
That's one.
Right.
Some veterans go back to the reservation,
Okay.
where they came out of,
Right.
where grandma is, where the grandchildren are.
Right.
But where they go to is not the city. It's a place where there's nothing there.
Right.
There may be a hogan, let's say maybe a chapter house, no running water, no sewer, let's say. And if they're a veteran, they have PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to drive 60 miles to a nearest VA center, let's say. How is it going to go?
Right.
And you have that.
So mental health is obviously one definite need for, and you were in that arena at one point as well with your education
Yeah,
and
psychiatric nursing.
so that brings me to, so it's not just getting good health care,
It's accessibility.
It's accessibility, and part of it also, it sounds like, is just getting those resources to those folks, however we have to get it. Now, one thing that is always when we were putting the podcast together, I did have some people say, well, the Native Americans all have casinos on their land, and don't they use that revenue for health care and taking care of their own folks?
Right.
And you explained to me that that's not always, even though there are casinos out there, and even though the idea is to get that revenue and to use it for the Native American education,
Right.
health care, schools, what exactly are you finding with that?
Well, you want to start with that one?
Sure. I could be real simple, because we have laymen and this is entertainment, if you will, right? And you spoke about how I'm working in healthcare and mental health, and our show is utilizing music, arts, entertainment as a means to bolster awareness, prevention, right? Much like yours is.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the disparities of finances, we talked about tribal members having to leave the reservation. If you're going to start a small business, depending on the business, more than likely, if you have a food truck, it's going to be pretty
outside,
tough, right? Because you're going to I'm going to sell to my brother, my cousins,
Right.
and et cetera. But if I go to Phoenix now, I have a whole lot of sales. Well, now I'm away from my home, I'm away from everything that extends, but I have to do that. And then you move to where if I have acreage on the land, I don't hold a deed to that land.
Right.
And I can't build wealth on it, right?
Right.
So now let's take that to casinos and different things. And to stay on a positive note, because again, we can point fingers,
Right.
we can cry, but just so citizens of Tempe, and because I'm really proud of it, as I drive around and I realize that Proposition 202 allowed tribes 12% amount to be given to municipalities, nonprofit groups, organizations, schools.
Okay.
So there is a movement if you do some issues. So as you go to the new park in Mesa, Pioneer Park, or if you go to different parks, you can probably guess that it was off of a grant from gaming.
Interesting.
Right,
Okay.
which is so beautiful, right? That's opulence for our children, our communities, right? But now let's look to what can we do to address the fact that, and I know these guys will pat me on the back, but it's my thought that if a tribal chairman is technically, and the council are technically the boss, they're the landlords of the casino,
Right.
right?
Right.
The casino is managed, but if the casino manager is making more than the tribal chairman, to me there's a disparity right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, hey, I'll expect a kickback. You guys kidding? No, I'm trying to get tribal chairman raises, it sounds like right now. But what I'm saying is, on an economy,
Right.
if the people that are holding the sovereignty, and if bodies are connected to the machine, and if that same body is still in a third world level economic situation, even after having a master's degree education,
Right.
there's a disparity that's hurting all of us,
Yep.
right? And I'm okay with everybody making their money, capitalism, and we live in the United States of America, and I want my products to go clandestine live. I'm gonna push my stuff.
Right.
But at this point in juncture, we see in every place that you look, right, this happens. But our place is healthcare. Let's look to healthcare and see, is it okay for one entity or one organization
Right.
to take 99.9% of all the earnings, all the money, and buy a boat and a yacht. I guess it's okay via capitalism because
Right.
you want, at the end of the day, invite me to your yacht because I'm coming, right? Because we are in the United States of America, right?
Right.
But it seems that because of the population growth in every industry, every city, everywhere you go, there's so many people, some of these policies need to be nudged.
Right.
And so we can look to where economic development can be nudged through healthcare right now, because there's a lot of waste. I do suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you just look to that, I don't have any funds,
Wow.
right? I have very little.
Yeah.
There's funds there, but it takes a team and a whole bunch
Right.
of people to embrace it, and meanwhile, every day we're losing people to suicide on
Right.
and we talked about veterans. Okay,
Right.
veterans are hit the hardest. Okay, and it's
Yes.
not just Native American veterans; it's all of our
All
veterans.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You know, and so we have people that are needing to make money, and there's people that are also needing to have social programs. We're meeting in the middle now.
Right.
It's time. If in the 20s they could literally pass a prohibition law and pour out a bunch of alcohol everywhere, and they could stand on that for a little while, I think we can get together and make some money on healthcare. I think we can, and I believe Dr. Setyan, because of our unique abilities with tribal sovereignty. Okay, I'm happy that we have gaming and entertainment. I'm in a band. We were hired by tribal casinos, but I can say there was not, at this point, there has not been an economy created for us.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think if you're Native and if you live in a gaming tribe, you have money. Well, I want to say harshly that it's not the case.
Yeah.
If you see a Native person out there, don't think we all have money, because
Exactly.
it is not the case, and we do not get free health care, and we do
Right.
not get checks every month, and that's why you see Native Americans in a impoverished situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're at the grocery store and you see some of my family members in a lower level financial situation, instead of judging,
Right.
remember that if your parents, if you own a home, if you own a lease, if you own a mortgage, if you have a cabin in the woods, if you have land, or if you're one of the lucky people who have 150,000 acres next to the Choctaw tribe or the Cherokee tribe or the Blackfoot tribe or the Anishinaabe in Canada or the Lakota tribe, if you are a rancher that owns thousands of acres, understand that those Native kids next to you, that's their inherent land.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have a deed. They cannot build wealth. And so we want to move that stereotype right out of
Yep.
off the table, that Native Americans are not in prosperity and
Right.
opulence right now due to casinos.
Right.
Most of the money has been made by gaming organizations, which is valid because they do the work. They did the investment. But as we educate, these new policies have to move into, if there's a hospital being built on a Native American community, or if there's a casino or a hotel and there's a multi-million-dollar project moving, if you're getting investment for over $100,000 to do anything on a tribal area, take yourself down there and donate to a Native American-owned nonprofit, please.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of those Native tribal members are getting a check off of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what I think we had talked about, that, you know, here in Scottsdale, they saw a vision, and they actually are making money off of, and that's what they're going to be building, a 200,000 square foot.
Yeah, Salt River is very, very progressive,
Right.
and obviously Cano's family members are within the Salt River as well.
Right.
And we speak with the healthcare department there, so we know what the how progressive they are as far as bringing in integrative medicine,
Right.
to the reservation, and obviously the one-on-one deal and the pavilion help them with economic progress for them
Right.
to have retained earnings for them to push
Right.
into for their projects.
But most casinos do not make,
Yeah, well,
or
most-
they're just
Very
breaking
few.
even.
Very
Right.
few casinos
Let's
make
clarify
any
that.
money.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not here on a pedestal saying, hey, give me money. It's about the value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the larger the tribal membership, the less of the money is allocated, from the
Right.
casino. So it's kind of, you may have a couple of casinos that make money, but
Right.
it doesn't mean that the members actually
Right.
Right.
Well,
get,
I think
get rich by that.
even the vision of, or the thought process of me having emotion and getting emotion about it, I think that speaks to even the cultural, because back to where you said tribes are private,
Yeah.
if you will. There is privacy, but I think a lot of the privacy came due to reaction to survival.
Right.
But you also go to where a lot of times in my culture, what I was taught in my family wasn't a separation of emotion and
Right.
business. It wasn't a separation of personal and business, because if you're having to separate your business so much from your personal, maybe your business isn't all that good.
Yeah.
If you can't talk about your business at the table because kids are there, well, of course, there's certain things we don't talk about.
Right.
But
Right.
if you can't express that and bring your business home and be proud of that and be wholesome, and I believe that our capitalist society, it is really pushed us into that position of
Right.
where we, culturally, my family anyway, I can speak for, we were raised to take care of each other,
Right.
But as expenditures go, and when the rent's due and the bills are due, it's really hard to take care of your brother.
Right.
Right. And so in tribal way, I think it's been difficult for me even to move into where you're labeling things, right?
Right.
That
Right.
they're not labeled that way in my culture.
Right.
Socialism, capitalism, what does that mean when in my culture a painting was just as valuable as
Right.
as that buffalo that came in?
Yes.
And that buffalo to me would be money. It
Right.
would be any kind of thing I could feed my family with.
Right. Right.
And we can actually we can look at economic development from the healthcare standpoint, and I think that we can use healthcare to solve the rest of the problems within native country and beyond.
Right.
I think that first of all, finding solutions in native health
Yes.
will also bring solutions to our national healthcare crisis.
I
I think
agree.
that's one. And then two, what good does it do when a casino makes billions of dollars when the society is sick?
Right.
So we need to address the healthcare first. We need to address from the child, the peds, all the way to the elders.
Right.
Is to create, let's say, something that billions of dollars have not yet, right? You have Indian Health Service.
Right.
It gets $5 billion a year from the federal government. It's not doing anything.
Right.
And then every year it's the same disparity. And,
Right.
and disparities just become worse and worse and worse.
Right.
So if it can go to the most richest tribe in the United States to the poorest,
Right.
and I can reassure you the healthcare disparities are the same.
Right.
Salt River Pima, we're talking about casinos making money. Did you know that the highest concentration of diabetes in the United States is in Salt River Pima?
I did know that. So is that across the Native American? Is that diabetes but it just seems to be prevalent in.
Yes. Well, first of all, it has to do with the diet, the dietary change.
Okay.
The river that was once there, and they used to fish and hunt. Now their diet has changed.
Okay.
So now they're creating this ailments as far as diabetes go.
Okay.
And at the same time, we have unneeded amputations happening across the
Yes.
reservations, and medical doctors actually make a lot of money by those amputations versus treating the disease.
Right.
So medical doctors see it as a better business for them to just chopping off limbs.
Yeah.
And if you're on the reservation, there's less regulation, let's say, less oversight, so you'll see more and more of those amputations versus in the city.
Which we had that discussion because when I was going down to Saskatoon, I was right next to the department of where they were doing that, and I couldn't believe how many people had their limbs amputated. I
Yeah.
was just shocked about that.
Right.
So, and then you had mentioned that they do make more money off of that. So, really, a lot of it is just educating, obviously, the Native Americans on eating better and trying to stay healthier, and educating the doctors too.
Oh, sure. I mean, educating doctors is one thing. Them going after their profits is another. And at the same time, the Native American DNA doesn't allow sugar to be processed. They don't understand that they didn't have apples, anything sugary stuff. They had squash and all that.
Right.
And also, they had their own way of dieting. If they didn't have food at that time, they didn't eat. So it was kind of natural fasting. So when these products and produce came in, it kind of put everything out of whack.
Right.
Well, I mean, myself, just culturally, I can't even speak saying that it's a tribal thing, but I know I have inherited a famine and feast culture or thought process, right? Of where, like you're saying, festival time, and you're planning up. You're expressing more than you need for a certain moment, right? And as we move into the diet stuff, the valley we live in is so different. Right. When you come from back east or another place to Phoenix, and you fly into Sky Harbor and you see this dryness, you don't realize that this was an oasis. You can read it, and if you just do a little bit of research, historical research, and you can't count on all the writings, if you will, because some of the books are irrelevant if you look to what the culture was. So when I was 20 years old, I'm 49. 20 years old, I got to drive around a 96-year-old Pima man. And as we drove across the Mill Avenue Bridge, he exclaimed, this used to be full of water, and this was green trees as far as you could see. Wow. You could hunt deer down by Papago Park. You could and he talked about picking raspberries. So the whole process, like Dr. Setyan's saying, the whole thought, even as a Native person, me sitting here, a Lakota Pueblo person, I also had to do soul searching, if you will, to realize that some of the things that I thought were tradition were really survival mode. Right. And it's okay for me to go to Whole Foods. It's okay for me to express my traditional food. Yes, it's fun to have fry bread, and we have movies and all these things. Yeah. But if we really look at the history and see that this valley here was an oasis to people for thousands of years, and the Autumn people hosted many people, and they had an economy that thrived within the foods and the culture they were used to. So my point is that every Native person, myself included, has to be empowered to know that, hey, you're worth eating better, one, and you're worth a quality of life. And I think maybe if we look at it from the positive standpoint, I think that the time has come for us to be not only positive, but for us to implement strategic solutions.
Absolutely.
To this,
There you go.
So this is what I think. I think, first of all, the philosophy is that if you have a society or a country, if the indigenous population is worse off than the rest, then that society or country is on a guaranteed path toward self-destruction. Exactly. Which means, okay, let's reverse engineer. Why don't we, the non-natives and natives, come together to learn from each other what works. Which means that to connect providers of healthcare with native providers. For example, let's say Native Health Organization, for example, with maybe Dr. Lynn at Safe Harbor, for example, our doctor. So they can connect. So they can bring in nephrology and endocrinology and house calls and so forth.
I think that's the important thing to say, that most doctors are doctors because they believe in the oath. Yeah. I mean, I've never. Most of the time, and any of us caught in these situations, and that is the solution, is to bring healthcare professionals.
And that's the thing. The solution is there. Why can we build the first Indigenous Children's Hospital in Maricopa County that would not only address the genetic ailments that other hospitals don't address, but we invite the global Indigenous children to come here to create commerce in a medical city? Why can't we do that? I'm sure a few people out there have a couple of billion sitting. They can do something good in that sense, where they can have a generational change. Why can't, let's say, native hospitals team up with, let's say, post-acute
Right.
agencies.
Right.
Like we have several home health and hospice
Right.
and palliative services,
Yep.
right? We have Assistio Home Health, let's say. We have Savior Hospice, for example, and all those organizations coming together.
Right.
Why can't we create that bridge? Because Native Health, for example, is looking for somebody to staff 5 home health patients. Okay, nobody's taking them.
Wow.
Whether they don't want to serve or whether they think they need a separate insurance for the natives,
Right.
whatever that misinformation
Right.
is, right? At the same time, we already know that providers are if they don't see that as business viable, they're not
Right.
going to do it, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Well, and then Assistio Home Health comes in,
Right.
and then takes all those patients in less than 24 hours.
Right.
Don't you think that kind of shows the community
Absolutely.
at the native site that there is hope, that now grandma doesn't
Right.
have to get discharged from a hospital
Right.
and now go back to the hospital
Right.
now? So these are the minor examples that we can utilize
Right.
to kind of speak with the hospitals
Right.
now to create that bridge between
Absolutely.
native with a non-native, with the
And-
medicine man, with the clergy.
Right.
When was the last time you heard that a medicine man was used, at a policy level
Okay.
for a hospice patient, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wrote the first policies through CMS Innovation on the utilization of medicine man for hospice care.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the medicine man statement, holy person or healer, brings me to where I, again, and excuse me, I know we talk about some heated things, and when you speak about a medicine man services being paid for on policy, I have to say that I've witnessed right now that there's some of the largest medical organizations that at last resort through some of the most seriously ill patients, there's still medicine people being called into the room.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still unexplainable things happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, as a musician and artist that has a background in nursing or a background in behavioral health and then an interest in understanding what our psyche is,
Mm-hmm.
I know what a song can do to my brain.
Absolutely.
I know what a song can do to my mood, and it's really time to push past things that were written 50 years ago.
Right. Right.
Just because it pays some guy,
Yeah.
literally. And so
Right.
to speak to that, there's policies and there's procedures.
Yeah, Medicare CMS needs to realize that, it's an archaic organization.
Right.
Even their system is archaic. So they need to come back to reality
Right.
and start working with the people.
Well, one thing that I see from what you all have said too is that we're in a time right now where getting services to anybody medically is really important. And we have the baby boomers, we have so many people that are housebound that can't get to doctors or hospitals.
Of course.
And so because of that, lots of companies have come up like Dispatch Health, which is a mobile urgent care,
Yeah.
and lots of other companies that are mobile that can get to. There's Mobile Dentistries of Arizona for teeth cleanings
Yeah.
and things like that. So we're at a time, I think, in our society where we can bring those resources
Right.
to the Native American and get them, not just get them healthy, but get the economy going and get them to a point where they can sustain and live a better life and send their kids, get their kids educated and send their kids off to medical school or
Yep.
nursing school or behavioral health clinics to come back and maybe help facilitate some of those resources.
Sure, and
So-
the tribes are ready to also
Yeah.
contract with non-native organizations outside the tribe
Right.
to bring in all the latest technology and health
Right.
innovation into the
I
tribes.
think it's going to take companies like Dispatch
Yeah.
to understand what it takes.
Right.
That the doors are there.
Right.
I mean, the hospital, there's so many people now that we need these services. It's
Absolutely.
almost beyond just a luxury, right?
Right.
We need them to be able to bring me my health care to my house now,
Right,
right?
right.
Because we just need it to help
Well,
the
and-
economy.
Right, and even my oldest daughter, who's a registered nurse at Banner Desert, she has told me many times, especially in the wintertime when we have all of our winter visitors and our hospitals are overcrowded and there's just not enough room. She has said, Mom, you need to use services like Dispatch Health and mobile services, mobile doctors, mobile podiatry. There's all kinds of services out there that not just Native Americans, but everybody can utilize.
Mobile services and telemedicine and teledoc and all the latest innovation in technology is being incorporated now into select providers who are not only see the vision, but also are able to do that.
Right.
You have very few home health organizations, for example, that have incorporated mobile doc.
Okay.
Just because they may not be able to utilize their funds efficiently, or they don't know how to.
Right.
But at the same time, you do have those select organizations who can partner up, let's say, with, Dispatch Health, or Safe Harbor, or MD24, let's say, right? With the doctors that we know. So I think it's time for the most competent and stable organizations to come together to create this network of providers. So instead of seeing each other as competition, to see each other as a collaborative group, because Medicare is trying to kind of shut down all the mom and pop stores right now, as you already know. And so that forces these competitors to come together as friends to really help each other, not to go out of business, one, and then two, to make a stronger foundation for the elders to get the care that they need. So now we're going from Native to the general population now, and I think that Maricopa County can be the hub of healthcare innovation. I think it can be the hub of where we can use it as an example in all the counties, throughout the United States, to show, listen, here's a model. Here's a hospital, here's a network of providers, acute, post-acute, subacute, and so forth, trauma units, you name it. Let's get the data together and see how it's affecting the natives. Are we seeing any change in their diabetes, in the stroke, and so forth? And then maybe that will teach IHS one thing or two, versus all the funds going into the administrator's coffers, and nothing is being built. It's important for people to know that IHS has all these dollars, and they just create these empty hospitals that are run by administrators and clerics. There is no competent person in there for them to run it. And the natives on the reservation, they think they're obligated to use IHS hospitals, not knowing that there are others that they can utilize for them to see the results. So when they're exposed to incompetence, after a while they think this is it. This is all I deserve. They don't know that a grandma deserves a better sniff.
Absolutely. Or a veteran. Deserves a better.
That's right. They think this is it. So this is what I mean. We got to change. We got to shatter all that misinformation and to elevate everybody to the level of the same health, so at least the health standards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where it brings us out of the fog of the emotions and the pointing of fingers, is like Dr. Setyan here says, is there's organizations who are progressively treating patients. And as he said, you don't need a special contract to treat a Native American person, right? But as we go, we have to express that to medical organizations, professionals, that if you do your paperwork right, you can bill these services.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we're kind of here basically also as an educational platform for us to be the bridge between, let's say, Mayo clinic and a Native Health care coordination. What post-acute providers can be in the middle, who have had the experience of helping these difficult patients.
So there is so much to talk about with the Native Americans. We are going to have you both back. But give us so there is an organization that you have, a nonprofit organization. Would you give us a little bit of information about that?
Sure, that's Operations Peace Project.
Okay, so we're going to add that to the podcast too, so people can actually see it. So tell us a little bit about that program.
Well, Operation Peace Project is a 501c3. And we're utilizing music, arts, entertainment, media, and events as a means to bolster awareness and prevention of suicide. We created a show called Clandestine Live. It's an online variety show that I believe we're live on our format right now. And what we're doing is raising awareness, much like Susan G. Komen Foundation did, right? Turned the World Pink. Well, we're going to get everybody to embark and say it with us, Clandestine Live, right? Because we're living, we're alive.
Right.
Clandestine is, we're all destined to be one clan.
Right.
Whether we like it or not. We come from, each one of us, no matter where you live, no matter who you are, we all come from a place that we sat around a fire as our light and as our safety.
So give us the website if someone listening wants to donate right away. We'll add it as well, but give us the website so someone can get into it.
You want to visit us at operationpeaceproject.org.
Okay.
And there's links there to donate, many avenues of donation that make it very easily. There's a lot of media and a lot of things you can do to support. Again, is follow, like, and share as you see our content on media. And to boast, we've stuck pretty organic. You know, there's algorithms, all these things that you want to do, and we will instill. But please, it's important for us to send us messages right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We're building a database, and we definitely want to control what the message is and keep it intact, you know, with organizations like yourself, groups that are meaning well, you know, because your show is doing great things. I watched it, and
thank you.
I had an excuse to brag to my mom, hey, I'm helping you today, Mom, you know, and she's like, yeah, right. She knows me. So thank you, Lydia. It's awesome.
Thank you for
We are after healthcare reform.
Yes.
And I think the time has come, and I think the time has come for us to join forces.
Absolutely.
Into making extraordinary things right here in town.
Right, I agree. And I like the idea that Arizona can be a testing ground, and we can take what we do here and take it to other tribes and other cities and other states.
Absolutely, we do have the infrastructure.
I'm super excited because Arizona seems to be the forefront since we have so many seniors and children.
Oh, sure.
Right.
We seem to be the forefront of a lot of medical.
Well, technology is out there, right? Ducey is doing all these deals with Israel. Why not have our deals with Native Health here, right?
Exactly. Well, thank you both for
so
coming.
Much.
I really am
kind.
so excited and honored to have you both, and you can come back anytime.
Thank
I'm
you so
super
much.
excited.
Appreciate it.
So that's it for Solving Life's Next Chapter, and we will have them both back. We're going to talk maybe next time on children's issues, women's issues, veteran issues. There's a lot to talk about with Native American healthcare and economics. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.